Welcome to the Building the Cooperative Classroom podcast, the official podcast of the Johnson & Johnson Cooperative Learning Institute. Welcome to the Building the Cooperative Classroom podcast. This is Adam Rubachuk, bringing you our fifth and final installment of the interview that Aaron and I did with David Johnson. In this last episode, he talks a little bit about the future, gets a little political, but it was just an absolute pleasure to hear David's thoughts and to have him wrap up on what he's doing today. So have a listen. As you talked about that competitive aspect to learning, I know that one of your passions is that structured academic controversy is putting that competition within a cooperative context. And every time we've ever trained anyone in cooperative learning, and as I was learning cooperative learning as well, when you start talking about that, that's when your ears perk up, because it makes so much sense, but also it's just such a different turn. And so I guess the question is, for a practitioner, when do you know that your students are ready and you have that cooperative context within your classroom that you can start kind of pushing the boundaries and have them engage in that?
Well, actually, there's a long history of theorists saying conflict is constructive. It's good. You want conflict in your life. The trouble is they never had any data to go with it. So in the early 70s, one of my students, Dean Cheswold, and I decided we got to do a set of studies showing that conflict has positive outcomes, and to differentiate between positive conflict and negative conflict. And so we've focused on conflict among ideas. You can say Trump is a great president. I can say Trump is a terrible president. Where the benefit comes is when you start to argue. Say, well, tell me why you think Trump is great. And you say, tell me why you think Trump is terrible. And out of going through the data, and the information, we learn more about what is a good president and what is a bad president. And we learn more about each other's perspective on it. And when that's done in a constructive way, it's priceless. It's just priceless. And so we did a set of studies showing that deeper level learning, broader learning, et cetera, comes out of these arguments. And I should also add that by then it was clear to us that you get more conflict in cooperation than you do in competition or individualistic work. When students work together, they really do disagree. And that it's much more frequent in cooperative learning, and it's valuable. It's a resource to be utilized.
I will we'll let you get going here too, because it is getting late. But I think I have one more question for you, and that's
all right.
Where do you see the future of Johnson & Johnson Cooperative Learning going? Like I said, you've got practitioners all over the world. There's probably more outside of the United States than in the United States, just as far as how far this has spread. You and Roger are still getting out there and training teachers all over the world. Where do you see the next round of research going? What do you hope to see in the 2020s and beyond?
I really hope it doesn't fade away. And in most areas of life, including academic life, once a person retires and stops writing or stops making presentations, they disappear very quickly. And so I could, especially with Roger, much better than I am, we could name a whole bunch of people that in the 1960s you thought, these are the greats. They'll last forever. And by 1980, nobody knew who they were. Nobody would recognize their name. And so One answer is we plan to keep going. Actually, writing's getting harder and harder for me, but I plan to keep writing and to keep publishing, to keep it in front of people. And then secondly, we want to support groups like you. Anybody who's promoting cooperative learning, especially our model of cooperative learning, we want to support and help and encourage in any way we can. And I had hoped that as the world gains in wealth, so there's less poor, that there'd be more and more interest in quality education, and which would bring them to cooperative learning. Now I'm not so sure that will happen. I mean, we live in strange times. I wrote a chapter on education in the 21st century in the late 1990s, and I said 21st century will be dominated by democracy. Everybody's moving towards democracy. Well, I was wrong. We're moving towards dictatorships. In Hungary, Turkey, Poland, they're just throughout the third world. We're moving towards dictatorships away from democracy. And I didn't think that would happen. And Trump is the American nightmare. I mean, how can we be America under a dictator? It doesn't seem possible, but it still might happen. Trump hasn't retired, and the Republicans in Congress are backing the January 7th, saying, let's do it again. Let's have another run at Congress. And it's absolutely astounding to me how that can happen, but it is. So we have to keep broadening the knowledge base too. The book I'm working on and having very little success finishing is democracy as a cooperative system. What is democracy, and how does how's cooperation form the basis for it? And then how does cooperative learning promote the establishment and continuation of democracies? And so I hope that will get finished someday, and that somebody will actually read it, which is always a big question mark. Well, listen, this was fun. Anytime you need me, let me know.
Yeah, we totally appreciate this, and our dozens and dozens of listeners will probably quadruple when they see that you're on the podcast. And hopefully next time we do this, we can take the drive up to Minneapolis and we can do it in person.
Well, don't make me sound so radical that we have a boomerang effect.
I don't think anyone ever questioned your politics, David.
No, but there's no sense in letting them know too much about it. Let them just suspect.
I'll see what I can do.
All right.
Well, we're just glad that people will get to hear you, talk about why cooperation is so important. And when I met you, I don't even want to know how many years ago when you came to my school district, it was transformational. I know it remains transformational for so many people and for so many kids. So we just appreciate your time.
I hope so. But thank you for sticking with it. So I'll see you, both of you, later.
Sounds
at
great.
Some future time.
There you go.
Yep.
Have a good evening.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Well, there you have it. That was our final installment of our David Johnson interview. I want to just express such gratitude to David. I know I speak on behalf of Aaron, and I know that Derek was very bummed that he couldn't be with us. But we will have a chance to talk to David again in the future, and we'll have lots of other sort of luminaries from the cooperative learning world all around the globe. But until next week, let's cooperate. Thank you for listening to the Building the Cooperative Classroom podcast, the official podcast of the Johnson & Johnson Cooperative Learning Institute. Please check out the show notes for all relevant links, including a link to our Twitter account and the Cooperative Learning Institute webpage. This podcast is copyrighted under the Creative Commons license, copyright 2021. Theme music courtesy of Jimmy Ryan.